We are today starting a little bit early. I apologize to all the committee members. We'll work on giving you a as early of a notification as possible. I know there are constituents that you have to meet, other obligations, but I appreciate you taking the time to be here with us. And we'll try to be judicious with the time. For members of the public, we have a lot of bills coming up, and I know we want to give everybody an opportunity to speak, but we ask that you keep testimony within a minute or two. With that, first up, we have Senate File 3749 with Senator Kunesh. And first up on the testifier list, we have Patty O'Keefe and Annie Humphrey. Could you please make your way to the table, and we'll try to notify the folks that are up next on the list so we can keep the committee running smoothly. With that, Senator Kunesh, you may begin.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and members. I'm really pleased to be here today to present Senate File 3749, a discussion around wild rice. And Committee Chair, before we begin, we have members of the indigenous community that have prepared their sacred wild rice. It includes honey and some blueberries, and I'm wondering, with your permission, if you would be okay if they served you all a taste of what we're talking about.
Certainly, we can pass it around, have staff pass it around.
All right, thank you very much. All right.
Kunesh.
So I would have loved to have gone into the history of this wild rice and gone into real depth around this whole subject, but I boiled it down to just a few sentences here. So Senate File 3749 is adding just one sentence to the definition of our state grain. It states, "It is the policy of this state to recognize the inherent right of uncultivated wild rice to exist and thrive in Minnesota. By recognizing this, the state of Minnesota is stepping into a reciprocal relationship with the plant that has been our state grain for nearly 50 years. Minnesota is already legally required by treaties to consider Manoomin and the waters it depends on, and this is just ensuring that this takes place going forward. Wild rice is a source of food and maintains the ecological structure of lakes and waterways. It prevents toxic algae bloom, absorbs carbon dioxide, fosters vital habitats, and stabilizes lake beds. Wild rice is a core component of the Anishinaabe identity. Anishinaabe people were called to travel to a place where the food grows on the water, and that place is Minnesota-Machoke, where it is, we call it Minnesota. Wild rice is struggling right now, and it needs our protection. Today, it is only able to grow on 64,000 of the state's 50 million acres. And so I ask you to consider this bill and vote positive for Senate File 3749.
Thank you, Senator Kunesh. And then first up, we have Patty O'Keefe, and then Annie Humphrey, and then we have a remote testifier up next following that. So, ma'am, whenever you're ready, please state your name for the record, and you may begin with your testimony.
Yes, my name is Annette Humphrey. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm from Leech Lake. I'm an Anishinaabe mother, grandmother, and a Marine Corps veteran. And I'm here today to ask you to pass the SF 3749, recognizing the inherent right of wild rice. And I realize that you have little understanding of why wild rice is so important, just like I don't understand why you don't see the value we have in it. There are 13 million acres of water that occupy the land of Minnesota, and natural wild rice covers a minimum of 64,000 acres. 60% of the natural Manoomin grows in central and northern Minnesota, Aiken, Cass, Crow Wing, and St. Louis County. The rice you are eating was harvested on the waters of Leech Lake and contains berries and maple syrup. And I actually left the woods to come be here today in this city away from my maple trees. So this is really important for me, that I am here to talk. You don't have to understand my passion for harvesting and eating wild rice, but tolerate me as I tolerate the many sportsmen and lake recreation people that populate the lake shores and campgrounds, resorts, private lake cabins, homes that force me to push off my canoe at public water access points that are sometimes miles away from my rice bed. The name, I'm going to deviate from this, but the word for a reservation in our language is Oshkanigan. Oshkanigan means what's left. So if you had a Culver's sandwich and I ate it, crumpled up the wrapper, and tossed it back at you, that's reservation. That's Oshkanigan. So all we're asking for, I don't think we're being too demanding, we're asking that the wild rice beds and the water that surround it are protected. We're only trying to keep what's left. We're not trying to reclaim the Americas to Argentina. We only want to hold on to Oshkanigan. And that, I think that's really reasonable. I think that 51 million acres and all the water, I think that, it's like playing in the sandbox. There's room for everybody. So let's consider one another's needs. Let's consider one another's upbringings, beliefs, and ways of life. If we can do that as people, my name is Annie, and you guys have Senator in front of all your names. I know you have a name. But let's try to see one another like that. I'm a veteran, I'm educated, I'm an Indian, I love wild rice. But thank you for the time.
Thank you, ma'am. Next up, Patty O'Keefe, and then we have Emma Needham on remote, and then following that is Jessica Intermill. Whenever you're ready, please state your name for the record, and you may proceed with the testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm a little bit out of order. I'm jumping in for Annie. My name is Jessica Intermill. I am a strategic policy consultant at Minnesota Interfaith Power and Light and bring nearly 20 years of experience as a treaty rights attorney. I speak today to 3 legal points. First, this bill applies the legal inherent rights doctrine to a plant that has been in Minnesota since long before there was a Minnesota. That doctrine does not grant any right to wild rice. Rather, it recognizes that the plant's inherent right to live exists because it is alive. Now, through 3 years, multiple hearings, agency meetings, Senate council opinions, the DNR continues to misrepresent this bill. It has not offered a single solution to address its own concerns. It is here to fight its own fears of what it believes may happen, but it offers no substance about the legal effect of this bill. This bill is a jurisprudential cultural shift. Minnesota was very literally built on resource extraction and commodification. For example, lumbermen, not settlers, pressed for the 1837 treaty with the Chippewa. This and other treaties turned land into property, shifting the cultural pattern from cyclical interdependence to profit-focused human activity at any cost. This bill steps back from that extractive worldview toward a relationship with a being that has lived here longer than we have. Finally, this bill helps fulfill the United States treaty promise. In the 1837 treaty with the Chippewa to secure land that would become Minnesota, the United States specifically guaranteed the right of, quote, gathering the wild rice. Now, it was unusual for the United States to name a specific species in any treaty protection, but this one did to acquire Minnesota land. Under the U.S. Constitution, that treaty promise was then and still is now the supreme law of the land. Even the United States Supreme Court has confirmed that this specific treaty guarantee continues today. To fulfill that treaty obligation for this and future generations, I encourage this body to advance Senate File 3749. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Next up, we have Emma Needham that's joining us remotely, then Jessica Intermill, and then Brandon Alkiri from MIAC. Miss Emma Needham, Please turn on your camera and please state your name for the record, and you may begin with your testimony. Thank you.
Good morning, honorable members of the committee. I'm unable to turn my camera on. It appears it's been disabled by the host. In light of the time, I'm happy to give my testimony without my camera, if that is acceptable to you.
We are working on trying to fix it. You may begin with your testimony.
Okay, Bujum, hello, my relatives. Chimigwich, thank you very much. All honorable members of the Minnesota Senate Committee on State and Local Government for your time this morning, and I'm honored to speak on behalf of my relative Manuman, or Wild Rice. For the record, my name is Emma Elise Needham, Indigenous Ogama Ganumikwe. I consider myself a dual citizen. I carry civic responsibilities to vote and share my values to impact legislation in two nations, both the United States as a resident of the great state of Minnesota and a tribal citizen of Misquagamiwi Zagaganing, or the Red Lake Nation. I am a Bullhead Clan, and I consider it a great honor to be here today. And I'd like to speak in support of the newly introduced SF Senate File 3749, amending the description of wild rice as the state grain to include language recognizing its inherent right to exist and thrive in our beautiful state. I am Anishinaabe Kwe, or an Anishinaabe woman, and in my culture, women are the caretakers of water, and all are responsible to consider the next 7 generations in our decisions. I take these responsibilities very seriously. I am here because I am cared for by my relatives and because I care for you all as my relatives as well. I'm humbled and grateful for your work in our legislature, protecting our rights to exist and thrive here in Minnesota. Manuman, the good berry, or what you call wild rice, and the water that sustains all of us are also our relatives who care for us and sacrifice themselves for our survival. In return, we must honor them by reciprocating the same respect that we give to one another and ourselves. It is a myth that nature thrives in preservation, left alone to fend for itself. In this world, very little can exist without ecological or familial support. Manuman, or wild rice, is no different. It needs relatives like birds to knock its seeds into the water, bees and insects for pollination, and Manumanike, wild rice harvest by humans. Nearly half of those grains land not into the jiman, or the canoe, but they land back into the water to grow for next season. Uncultivated wild rice is in danger in Minnesota, as my relatives have already shared. I am your relative and you are mine, and Manuman exists for all of us to continue to exist and thrive here in Minnesota Makochek. We owe it the same respect. For all of us, I urge you to pass SF 3749. Without support from relatives like you, and through legislation like SF 3749, there may not be a next harvest or continued life for wild rice. Miigwech Bizendawiye. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you,
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Needham. Senator Kunesh.
May I just ask if my next testifier can testify next, Patty O'Keefe? She's got a
certainly.
schedule.
Please state your name for the record and you may begin.
Yeah, hello, members of the committee and chair. My name is Patty O'Keefe. I am with Vote Solar, and we are in support of Senate File 3749, which would establish wild rice, or Manuman, in Anishinaabe as Minnesota's state grain. Wild rice is native to Minnesota and brings many benefits. It's rich in antioxidants and a great source of protein and fiber. It cleans water by filtering out pollutants and reducing algae, and is also a source of food and habitat for wildlife. The grain is of great economic and spiritual significance to Indigenous people across the state. It is central to the Anishinaabe creation story about their people being led to the Great Lakes region to find the food that grows on water. And it is a source of income for Native people across the state. Today, Manuman is at risk given its sensitivity to sulfate pollution, human development, and the impacts of climate change, warming our waters and creating increasingly unpredictable water levels each year. In the last 100 years, we've lost 1/3 of wild rice watersheds, and we continue to lose another 5 to 7% of available wild rice annually. That was a really impactful statistic for me to see. Preserving native wild rice is incredibly important to the culture and economics of Indigenous peoples. and to our efforts to keep Minnesota's water clean. Wild rice is not just a suitable choice for our state grain, but it would also aid in efforts to educate the public and preserve it for future generations. You may find it peculiar for a solar advocacy organization to be commenting on this bill, as it is a bit outside of our scope, but that's a testament to the importance of this issue that makes us feel compelled to weigh in. Thank you for your consideration of this legislation.
Thank you for the testimony. Next up, Brandon Elkiri. Then we have Mr. Tom Johnson from the MPCA and Bob Meyer from the DNR. Please state your name for the record and you may begin.
Thank you, Chair Xiong, and thank you, committee members. My name is Brandon Elkire. I am a Dakota exile from the Standing Rock Sioux Nation. I am also a Navy veteran and an attorney. Today, I'm here in my capacity as the interim director for the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council. On behalf of the Indian Affairs Council, we write in strong support of this legislation, recognizing the inherent rights of Mannomen or Sin, also known as wild rice. We also support the broader legislative efforts being advanced by the Rise and Repair Alliance that seek to uphold those inherent rights and strengthen protections for wild rice and freshwater in Minnesota. Now, the mission of the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council is to protect sovereignty of all 11 tribal nations that share geography with Minnesota and to ensure the well-being of American Indian people throughout the state. MIAC serves as the official liaison between state government and tribal nations, and our executive board is composed of elected tribal leadership of those sovereign tribal governments. As original stewards of the land and waters that now make up the state of Minnesota, tribal nations recognize the profound cultural, spiritual, and ecological significance of Mannomen or Sin, wild rice. This sacred plant has sustained our people for generations and remains central to our identity, traditions, and relationships with the natural world. Wild rice is far more than a staple food. For Indigenous nations and communities, it represents a living relationship grounded in traditional Indigenous knowledge. Indigenous teachings recognize that water plants and animals are relatives who sustain life and deserve respect, not domination. For thousands of years, Indigenous people have protected these lands and waters. Today, however, with colonial systems of extraction and environmental degradation increasingly threatening those sacred relationships across treaty territories, unless we act together, the health of our freshwater systems, the future of wild rice, and the well-being of all communities in Minnesota will be at risk. Beyond its cultural and spiritual significance, wild rice is also a keystone species that plays a critical role in our ecological health of Minnesota waters. Wild rice beds provide essential habitat for wildlife, support biodiversity, and help stabilize aquatic systems. Studies show that wild rice contributes to improved water quality by assisting in the removal of pollutants, such as excessive ammonia, nitrogen, and phosphorus. Wild rice ecosystems also support more than 17 species in Minnesota, identified as species of greatest conservation need. Protecting wild rice, therefore, protects our ecosystems. Yet the natural stands of wild rice that once covered large portions of what is now Minnesota continue to decline. Before statehood, wild rice grew across much of the region. Today, its abundance is threatened by a combination of human-caused pressures, including climate change, invasive species, water pollution, industrial agricultural runoff, pollen drift, and potential impacts of proposed sulfide mining. Research indicates that wild rice available for off-reservation tribal harvest has declined by approximately 5 to 7% annually in some regions. The continued loss of wild rice would have a profound consequence not only for tribal communities, but for the biodiversity and ecological resilience of Minnesota as a whole. As noted by the Governor's Task Force on Wild Rice, the decline of Mannomen is not inevitable. It is a result of human decision and policies. It is therefore our shared responsibility to address the conditions that threaten this sacred plant. Mannomen is more than just a state grain. It's a living relative that nourishes our people, our waters, and our way of life here in Minnesota. For these reasons, the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council respectfully urges the legislature to support legislation recognizing these inherent rights and to advance the protections for wild rice in freshwater. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Mr. Director Tom Johnson from MPCA, and then Bob Meyer, the Assistant Commissioner. Please state your name for the record. You may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. For the record, my name is Tom Johnson, Director of Government Relations and External Affairs at the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. Thank you for the opportunity to testify briefly on Senate File 3749, and also appreciate the availability in the meetings that we've been able to have with Senator Kunesh over the last few years and the Rise and Repair Coalition on this topic. The MPCA recognizes the deep importance and significance of wild rice, not only to our tribal governments and indigenous communities, but also to our state as a whole. There's a good reason it's our state grain, unique to our state, and a deeply important resource. We are committed to continuing to protect wild rice and moving forward. I know it's slower than many would like, but moving forward on the implementation of the sulfate standard. The agency does, however, have concerns about the addition of the inherent right language in Senate File 3749. This could massively complicate agency decision making. It's unclear how we would navigate the right of wild rice to exist and thrive, or what our obligation exactly would be. It's a little vague for us to understand. An example would just be wild rice. It grows in boom and bust cycles, and it can often be unclear whether a rice bed is at a low point in its cycle or if it is in decline due to pollution. So understanding exactly what thrive means in that context would be challenging for the agency to navigate. Anyway, thank you for the opportunity. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And next up, Assistant Commissioner, please state your name for the record, and you may begin.
Good morning, members. For the record, Bob Meyer, Assistant Commissioner, Department of Natural Resources, and thank you for the opportunity to testify on this bill today. First of all, I want to thank Senator Kunesh for her hard work in protecting wild rice in the state of Minnesota. I did have an opportunity to discuss the DNR's concerns with the Senator recently and look forward to continued conversations on this issue. The DNR fully understands the spiritual, cultural, and economic importance of Monoman to our tribal nations in Minnesota. In fact, we will do a lot to work to protect, restore, and enhance wild rice in our state, much of it with the support and cooperation of our tribal nation partners. For example, just this past year, we worked to manage over 23,000 acres of wild rice waters, keeping them free-flowing and making sure that the water does not submerge or flood out the plants. A lot of that is dealt with water control structures, removal of beaver dams, and things like that. We continue to do that work statewide with our partners. The DNR does have concerns over what the inherent right language of wild rice means for the management and protection of wild rice in Minnesota. One example would be if a wild rice bed is being damaged by a flock of trumpeter swans or wild geese, do we need to go and haze those animals off of that bed to protect its inherent right, or perhaps move them, do some other management activities? I would also like to bring to your attention, I know the cause of action came up, a memo that was prepared by Senate Council last year by Ms. Primo and Mr. Stanley as we discussed this issue in the Environment Committee last year. Just the last sentence of that statement. Attempting to anticipate how exactly this language may transpire would be speculation. But we want to be clear that although the language at issue does not create a cause of action, the language may be cited in court filings for purposes separate and apart from the issue of whether the language creates a cause of action, as we have seen in the past. Mr. Chair, members, that is our main concern, is the ambiguity of what this would mean, how the courts would interpret it, and also I do concur with Mr. Johnson's concerns about what it means for other statutory management actions that are there today. Thank you.
Thank you, Assistant Commissioner. With that, we will open it up to the committee for members' questions or comments. And we'll give it back to the testifier. Senator McQuaid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Kunesh, thank you for your bill and to everyone who came here to support it. Can I just ask you the hypotheticals that were posed? So if there were swans doing something to a wild rice bed, would your bill require the DNR to, I think he said haze them off, but I'm not sure if I heard that correctly.
Senator Mayquay.
Nope, Senator Kunesh.
Senator Kunesh.
I think we have to look at the natural rhythm of life in this world, and the fact that we recognize that our two-legged and our four-legged brothers and sisters also thrive off of the wild rice. I don't think that something such as that would cause the DNR to come in and have to eliminate those sort of animals, but this is the sort of thing that we would hope that the DNR would work with the tribes, work with the communities to help understand, but recognizing that there's a natural rhythm to nature out there, and you know, we want to feed our two- and four-legged animals as well.
Senator Mayquay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator Kunesh, I think you also answered the kind of hypothetical that was brought up by the Director of Government Relations with MPCA, that there's boom and bust cycles to wild rice to monomen. And so I guess maybe my broader question then is the bill's intent to say that every single season of every single year, every piece of wild rice will exist, or is it to allow for that ecological system to continue to exist? I mean, are there any animals that are a threat to the existence of wild rice?
Senator Kunesh.
I think whenever we have any kind of agricultural natural life, there is boom and bust, there's natural cycles. This bill does not insist that the DNR micromanage it to that point. I also sit on the Ag Committee, and we see, you know, discussion around how we propagate here, how we let things lie there. There's, again, that natural rhythm. But when we talk about inherent right, it really, specifically to uncultivated wild rice, this is more around the legal and cultural concept that that wild rice actually possesses what is the word I want to use? Intrinsic, inalienable right to exist and to flourish and to regenerate and evolve, but in a natural state, while we are protecting all of the other environmental aspects that would affect, you know, the diminishing of it. So that's really what that is about.
Senator Hemmingsen-Jaeger.
Thanks. I have a comment and then kind of a question. So another organism that I actually studied in my first master's was an endangered species of freshwater mussel, which we know is another type of organism that is really indicative of the type of environment that helps filter out the water. So I just kind of felt that connection kind of with wild rice, kind of also being an indicator and a filter for our water ecosystems. My question is kind of for the agency. My understanding is that every state agency has tribal liaisons and are expected to undergo a tribal consultation process. Wouldn't the implementation and the understanding of, you know, better understanding these inherent rights and how to implement them into policy be a great topic of conversation for the consultation process and your tribal liaisons?
Senator Kunesh or any of the testifiers.
So,
please state your name for the record.
Buju, Leanna Goose, an Indigenous cause. I'm from Leech Lake. And I just want to directly push back on what Bob said first. If we take care of rice, like there's enough for the geese and us. So I just wanted to note that when we're taking care of wild rice, we're also taking care of everything else that depends on it. So I just wanted to mention that. And we have done consultations with the tribes, and this aims to ensure that the state of Minnesota considers monomen first in all state actions. I know that the consultation system is broken here in the United States. It amounts to the government telling tribes that this project will happen, and there is no mechanism for tribes to fully reject that. The United Nations operates on the system of free, prior, and informed consent, and that allows for tribal sovereignty to be respected. So I just wanted to call that out right now as a process that is broken. And we need to consider Monoman first in all state actions, and that's what this legislation aims to do. And hopefully, you know, as we move forward, the state considers Monoman first, and the waters that help Monoman exist and thrive. I'm from Leech Lake, and we have PFAS contamination within our reservation. And the wild rice that you're eating was harvested from Leech Lake. My children, it's been found at their schools in their drinking waters. So I just want to note that, you know, once the PFAS are in the maple trees, like how, do you guys know how to take that out? Nobody does. That's why it's called a forever chemical. So I just wanted to note that this is about our responsibility to do better for our children and changing these systems that are broken. They're clearly broken. So miigwech bizendawiag, thank you for listening.
Thank you. And then we have, I think there's a response.
Yeah.
Please state your name and then you may respond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Senator, again, Tom Johnson, Director of Government Relations, External Affairs at MPCA. We do have a tribal liaison. We do make every effort to consult with each one of the federally recognized tribes each year. And I will say we have also developed a consultation policy in collaboration with each of the tribal governments who wanted to be a part of that to ensure that there is meaningful consultation during those periods. And honestly, the partnership that I think we've built over the last few years has been meaningful. And our concern is not in the relationship with the tribal governments directly. It's about third-party lawsuits that might reference the inherent right that is in statute if this bill were to pass. So it is not necessarily a tribal state relationship piece. It is opening up the state to legal vulnerability.
Thank you. Senator Lang.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Senator Kunesh. I think this is a very similar discussion that we had last year in the Environment Committee. You know, it's kind of a fine line we have to walk here sitting behind the table as legislators when we put things in black and white on paper, right? How do I respect a culture and a religion and really you know, how do I do that and still put something in statute that isn't open a huge can of worms for litigation? And the fun thing about it is that I get to talk to lawyers all the time, some of which are in the legislature, some of which I trust very greatly, and some of which I sometimes don't. The overwhelming, I guess I would call it a legal opinion. And the good thing about legal opinions is they don't matter at all until you get into court. But the overwhelming legal opinion from kind of lawyers from both sides of the aisle has been that this inherent right, and if you remember last year, we talked about that pretty extensively in committee, where I think we offered a few off-ramps as like, hey, can we phrase this in a way that doesn't open up the state of Minnesota a vast amount of litigation? Or, you know, we use the term slippery slope, unfortunately, because it's way overused, but how does that work when that slippery slope starts talking about, you know, not just wild rice? You know, we just spent how many months going through a foraging committee trying to work through that aspect to it. So legally speaking, I think that is the issue, is that inherent right portion where it does lead into it, you know, and I'm not a lawyer, but I've been here long enough to look at a little bit of phraseology and say, hey, this is in black and white. I'm looking at that. How do we enforce that? One, is there enforcement measure, right? What does that mean for other portions of black and white legislation written throughout statute in the state of Minnesota that, you know, we look at things like that all the time. So again, I think I'd reiterate the fact that there probably is a way to do this that removes that language, removes the fear of any future litigation. You know, and then there's the enforcement aspect to it, right? Like, once you give the inherent right to exist and thrive in the state, what does that mean? Does the DNR enforce that? If somebody boats over a wild rice bed and destroys a bunch of it, you know, inadvertently or not, what does that fine look like? What is, I mean, we're kind of, I don't think this is a complete piece of legislation when it comes to the rest of the way it works. And then what about other things? I mean, I really like trees, but sometimes they need to be cut down for firewood. I really like rivers and lakes, and I would do anything to protect those. And over the course of the years, we've seen, you know, Senator Thomasoni was great about wild rice statutes and bringing new, you know, the MPCA worked very closely with those guys for years for new standards of phosphates and nitrates in the water, and we've all voted on that. I mean, we voted that and increased the standards to protect the wild rice. And that's not what we're asking here. We're talking about something different. And then, you know, other things. Free to thrive throughout the state of Minnesota. How does that work with the MPCA when they have affluent permits that exist? That has to be some sort of contradiction when it comes to what they decide is the correct amount of pollutants in the air, water, you name it, and they provide a permit through the standards that they've set. Now, if that harms a wild rice bed, how does the state of Minnesota reflect that? And is there a statute that would have some sort of criminal penalty? And what would that penalty be? I mean, you could range from, once you give that inherent right, and again, there is a difference in opinion on what exactly that means. Once you give that, what are we talking about? Is it a damage to property? Is it more than that? I don't know. So again, I would reiterate the fact that I'm all on board. I understand. I truly do. I think it's a worthwhile cause, and I've talked to the members of the group, a couple different groups actually, over the interim, and I get it, understand. But you know, we don't deal with a whole lot of, we don't deal with anything other than black and white. That's really, once it's on paper, once it means something. So that would be my only thing. If there is an amendment that we can do to this that says, you know, or, you know, this is what we believe to be true and right, and stick with that, I think that would be much more meaningful, and you'd probably get a lot of support from the people around the table.
Senator Kunesh.
Well, just a real quick response. We do believe this is in black and white, and this is what we do believe in and support. But I do have a response as well from our lawyer.
Yep. You may respond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Jessica Intermill. One of the things that I want to really just sort of step back a little bit and look at is what is an inherent right? Because it sounds kind of like ishy and ethereal, but y'all and all of us know exactly what it is because we know the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal. That's what we're talking about when we say that wild rice has an inherent right to exist and thrive. Because it is a being that exists, we recognize that it's a being that exists. Now, that's black and white. You've read the Declaration of Independence. We all know that one. It can get, when it's applied in different places, it might mean different things. That's true. This is not a trespass action. This is not a sulfate standard. Those are very measurable things for the Judiciary Committee, for the Natural Resources Committee. This is state government. We're talking about what the policy of the state of Minnesota is. Now, when we do that, we're applying the policy to the species, not to an individual grain of rice, not to a particular, like this stalk of rice. And so when we do that, there are some of the hypotheticals that the agencies have come up with don't make sense, right? It doesn't matter about that flock of geese. It doesn't matter about that particular, that particular boat channel. We do have a bill about boat channels that does very specifically talk about what that can do, because boating through wild rice beds is a really big problem. But this bill instead talks about the right of the species to continue to exist, because so far, Minnesota is not doing a great job. We've got the head of the DNR, we've got the MPCA talking about how important the wild rice is as a species. It is dying, and it's not, I'm gonna take that back, it's not dying. We are killing it. So this is about what Minnesota can do, what the policy of the state is, not the policy of the geese, to protect wild rice. What does that mean for the trees? That's a great question. We're here about wild rice because wild rice is sacred to the population that was here before we were, before the state was, before the United States was. So do I believe that trees have an inherent right to exist? I do, as a species. I'm not asking the state of Minnesota to honor that because this is not about the state tree, this is about the state grain. And if we say that this is who we are, if we say we're the wild rice state, then it's time to protect it and to be the relative that it needs us to be.
Thank you. Any other members?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I agree with everything you said. The problem is I don't have the leeway to vote things up or down like that. I need to think about everything in the state. I need to think about every law that's been written, truthfully, and I need to take the input that we get, and you know that's the thing is like I think there is an off ramp to this, and it looks like different language to me.
Thank you, and Senator Matthews, then Senator Drazkowski. Senator Matthews.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I appreciate this conversation, but I think the description that we've given is, I think, where some of the struggles come in with this particular language we've got, because the tie to the Declaration of Independence, I believe your analogy starts to fall apart, because the Declaration and the Constitution are both all about individual rights. You as an individual have God-given rights that are then laid out as the government shall not be taking these rights away. Not you collectively as a whole, but each and every one of you out in the audience was specially and individually created by a creator and are endued with inalienable rights, you yourself as an individual, that government then cannot take away. And that's, I think, the difficulty then of how you try to use that justification as a standard for a bill like this. And then I just want to have one follow-up question, Mr. Chair, that I believe I want to direct to our Senate counsel. And if counsel, my question would be, are you aware of any other place in statute where we utilize language either like this or similar to this that gives some kind of, with the language of inherent right to any other particular subject like this bill is presenting?
Counsel, Ms. James.
Mr. Chair and Senator Matthews, I am not aware of another sentence like this in statute, but I also have not searched for it.
Senator Matthews. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Kunesh, we had this, actually, some of this language was in Environment last year, and it didn't pass out of committee. 2 Democrats voted with the Republicans not to do it. And now you're bringing it back again. It appears to me that, at least as a bill, this doesn't have a chance of passage here. Why are we here today?
Senator Kunesh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And it's Kunesh.
Kunesh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We brought it because we believe in it, because we believe in the inherent right of wild rice. We believe that it should be in our state our state statutes. We recognize that wild rice is a vulnerable entity that we have not been good stewards of over the years, no matter what we do. And we want to recognize the inherent rights of the uncultivated rice. And it's that simple. It's that simple.
Thank you, Senator Drazkowski.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Kunesh. Senator, we look at Chapter 1 in statutes, the chapter that this is attempting to amend. We have a state bird, a state fish, a state bee. I'm trying to pick out the beings here. I don't know if gemstones are beings according to some of the testifiers or not. We've got a state fire museum, but state fruit. We're on the topic of the state grain right now. We've got a state mushroom. We've got a state butterfly, among others that could be considered beings. So we could do this and give inherent rights to all of those beings. And where would we be then? We would be in a position where we would be a state full of litigation, even more than we have now. I'm wondering, well, I've got a question first, but Mr. Chair, I would move to amend the bill by striking lines 1.9 and 1.10.
Senator Drazkowski moves to amend Senate File 3749, striking, you said striking line 1.19 to 1.10?
1.9 and
1.9 to 1.10. Senate Counsel, do you need any statement? Okay. Senator Kunesh, you have anything to say to that?
Yep, I would just like to give Ms. Lusa a moment to explain.
Ms. Lusa.
Yeah, thank you. So when we recognize the inherent right of wild rice to exist and thrive, we're recognizing a reciprocal relationship with it. Wild rice cares for us, and so we must care for wild rice. I like how Senator Lang brought up the tree. So I just want to mention that too. Like trees actually bring us life. They provide oxygen to us, and in turn, we give them carbon dioxide. We are a part of nature, and we can be a good part of nature, or we can be a bad part of nature. And this is about shifting our views. This legislation, you said, why bring this forward? It's because our relationship with the natural world is broken. We're operating on broken systems of extraction that take and give nothing back. In Anishinaabe culture, we are taught to give back. We are taught when we go out there and harvest monomen, we put a handful back to ensure that the person behind us has monomen when they need it. And that's what this is about, is bringing in that culture of respect and love for the natural world into state law. And it is important in this moment. We are going through a 6th mass extinction. Some of the species you just listed, like the butterfly, it's in danger of disappearing. The rusty patch bumblebee, that's endangered too. And when we look out for the natural world, we're not only looking out for ourselves, we're looking out for our children's future, and we have a responsibility to ensure that they have what they need to survive so they can exist and thrive. And wild rice, as you heard earlier, is a treaty-protected food. It should already be considered first in all state actions, underneath the highest law of the land, the Constitution. And I hear you guys talking about litigation. This could prevent litigation down the road. I know that the DNR brought up that they have been in active litigation. I'm hearing about lawsuits. If the legislature requires that these state agencies consider monomen first, as should already be happening, then we can avoid that litigation altogether. So I want you all to just hear me, and speaking from the heart for my children and future generations. Miigwech.
Thank you, Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think Senator Matthews pointed out the Constitution and its application to protecting the rights of people. And so here's where we are trying to extend rights of people to rights of other beings, to plants and animals, which seems just very eccentric to me to want to do that to begin with. The rights that are protected in laws and in our Constitution especially are those rights of people. This is the part of the bill I think that is most controversial, most not palatable, I think, to probably the majority of members in the Senate. And without this, and if we are able to move this amendment and pass it, Mr. Chair and members, I think we might have a bill that, in language that people could largely rely on and support. So I'd ask for your support of the amendment and ask for a roll call, Mr. Chair.
A roll call being requested. Roll call will be given. Senator McQuaid to the amendment or to the bill? Senator Johnson-Stewart. To the amendment?
To the amendment.
Senator Johnson-Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Kunesh, for bringing this. I was in that committee hearing last year in Environment where we got stuck on the part about the inherent right. First, I want to point out that the words in this bill are inherent, not inalienable. And while their meanings are similar, it is not the same word. I just want to offer up just a point of reference. What I remember from that hearing and what I'm noting today is this is it is a point of cultural misunderstanding for those of us that we're trying to understand, and by the way, I'm going to vote against the amendment. So I believe strongly that this is the reason that, again, we're having this mismatch in understanding is because for the Native Americans, the rice, we're not talking about religion, which is where we got off last year in Environment. We are talking about seeing the rice as a being. Senator Drazkowski, I don't see that we're granting any specific rights. We're not we are just offering up that it has an inherent or a natural, essential, permanent right to exist, and not. I think we're trying to expand this to what if? Why are we going to allow rice to drive? Are we going to allow rice to? I mean, fill in the blank. It can get pretty ridiculous. I trust my friend Mary Kunesh, who is Native American, and all the people who are trying to help us understand this different concept of rice as something that's not part of our culture. And so I welcome that, and I trust you, and I'll be voting against the amendment. Again, I want us to just see this for what it is. We are seeing that rice has an inherent right to exist and thrive. If somebody wants to bring forth a bill to give butterflies an inherent right to exist and thrive, I will listen to that too. But right now, again, we're talking about rice, and I'm trying really hard to understand this. It's not from my culture, but I can appreciate it, and I'm in support of the bill and against the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. And with that, we will take Senator McQuaid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And my comment is to the amendment, and I'll go very fast. I'm glad that Senator Drazkowski actually brought up the state statute where this is going, because the last part of the state statute is 1.50, which says Minnesotans have a right to live free from violence. So it details a right. There's no definition of violence. There's no criminal penalty. We have a whole separate statute that deals with that. And in fact, we sanction some violence in the state of Minnesota, right? There's corporal punishment for parents to children, right? Like there's plenty of violence that we allow in the state of Minnesota. And no one's ever brought litigation saying you're violating, statute 1.50. I see this very in line with something we already have in this same statute of law. So I'll be voting against the amendment.
And members, so just to let members know that this bill will be laid over, but we will go to the vote on the amendment. Senator Barr, did you have something to say? Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, members, inherent right of one organism in the absence of inherent rights for all organisms will remove the inherent or the rights of other organisms to do what they want to do. So follow me here. So the state of Minnesota owns the wild rice in our public waters. That's what I just read in law now. So if you've got a patch of wild rice on public water and an organism wants to take it over, like, you know, a mold or a virus or something that would attack wild rice and take it over. And if they were taking it over, the state of Minnesota would be in a position, because somebody would sue on behalf of the inherent right of wild rice, would sue the state of Minnesota because you aren't protecting their right to exist, because the mold is taking over the patch of wild rice, or because the critter that's out there that's eating the wild rice is infringing upon the inherent right of the wild rice to exist. Suddenly the taxpayers of the state of Minnesota would be in a position where we would be sued in order to protect the inherent rights of wild rice. Members, that's what we're talking about here. This is silly to have language like this. It shouldn't be before us today. We shouldn't be entertaining this language for this organism or any other organism. With that, Mr. Chair, I would ask if Mr. Meyer could come and talk about what has been done in terms of what our lawsuit exposure is here and what has been done in the past. I understand there's been some past litigation in this area.
Mr. Assistant Commissioner, you had a question for that question from Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Meyer, I've been told that we have had litigation around wild rice in the past. Can you summarize for us what that is and what the position is now, and then if you have any insight into what this language and how it would affect that exposure for the state of Minnesota and its taxpayers?
Mr. Chairman, members, for the record, Bob Meyer, Assistant Commissioner DNR, and I am not the head of the DNR, just for the record. I am in charge of our government relations. Commissioner Sarah Stroman is the head of the DNR. So, Senator Drazkowski, to your question, we have been sued in the past by Monoman in the White Earth Tribal Courts over Line 3. I could provide the committee a copy of this if they're interested, but ultimately it was dismissed, I'll just say, in that tribal court because of lack of standing. So there is a precedent that this could be sued, the state could be sued, we have been sued on it, and that basically was the basis of my concerns with the language. We recognize the need to protect, restore, enhance, and ensure that our wild rice is available for all Minnesotans, including our tribal nations as well. But our concern is just opening the state up to more legal action, which ultimately is paid by the taxpayers as we seek general funds to provide for our legal fees. That's how we pay for our legal costs in the state of Minnesota's DNR.
Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Mr. Meyer, I don't think I called you the head of the DNR. I said from the DNR, I think.
No, it was stated previously.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. I don't have any questions for Mr. Meyer, but members, it's already been attempted to sue on behalf of wild rice. And this would simply create that standing for wild rice to have in court. And that's what we just heard from the testimony from Mr. Meyer. And the people of Minnesota would be on the hook for whatever pursuit around the existence of wild rice or a perceived threat for the existence of wild rice, and what that may be might present itself. You know, I think the attorney called this jurisprudential culture change. And so what that means is this is going to create a whole new vector for people to sue on behalf of something that hasn't been able to be sued upon before, and in a way that it hasn't been sued upon before. So that's what we have before us, members. It would be a very irresponsible move for the legislature to put language like this in the law, not only for wild rice, but for any of our state beings or any other being. And I encourage your support for the amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator Drazkowski. With that, staff will begin the roll call.
Chair Xiong?
No.
Vice Chair Gustafson?
No.
Vice Chair McQuaid?
No.
Lead Lang?
Yes.
Senator Barr?
Aye.
Senator Swatzinski?
Nope.
Senator Drazkowski?
Aye.
Senator Fateh?
No.
Senator Hemmingsen-Jaeger?
No.
Senator Johnson-Stewart?
No.
Senator Coran?
Yes.
Senator Matthews?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, there are 7 noes and 5 ayes.
There being 7 noes and 5 ayes, the amendment is not adopted. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if council could tell us, there's 2 words or terms in the bill or there's 1 word or term in the bill that appears in 2 places. On 1.8 and 1.12, it's right after the word wild rice, comma, on line 1.8. I'm wondering if council could tell us what that is.
Ms. James.
Mr. Chair, Senator Drazkowski, I do not know what those symbols are. It looks like an alternate
Senator
language to English.
Senator Kunesh, would you be able to enlighten us?
Certainly. In the bill, I think you are referring to the word sin, P-S-I-N. Is that the word that you are referring to?
Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Kunesh, it starts with PS and then there's two letters or symbols that I don't understand after that.
Sure. That is the word for wild rice in the Dakota language. The Dakota were the first people on these lands, and that is how we spell it and refer to wild rice in the Dakota language.
Mr. Chair?
Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wonder if council could help us out and explain to us what is the language of the law that we work from here in Minnesota in the United States.
Senator, Ms. James.
Mr. Chair and Senator Drazkowski, we have words in here that are Latin and also elsewhere in statute. I don't know if we also have any other words in the Dakota language in our statutes.
Senator Drazkowski.
And I just would like to...
I'll give you the opportunity. Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, council. I have never seen, other than English and a Latin language for outlining the genus and species, because that's how they're written, outlined in our statutes. So this appears to me to be something brand new, and certainly not in the spirit of or following the rule of how we write law in the state of Minnesota. So it's rather concerning to me as well, Mr. Chair.
Senator Kunesh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to also point out that we are using the word manoman, which is the Ojibwe word for wild rice. And if you look at that word Minnesota, that is an original Dakota word.
With that, Senator Drazkowski, do you have any final word before we go?
Mr. Chair, I'm just
the closing.
Is there, and maybe Senator Kunesh could tell us, is there another way to spell sin with our English language?
Senator Kunesh.
So this is the word for wild rice in the Dakota language, in the Dakota script, just as we have Latin here. And it's a perfectly lovely word that ought to be included and celebrated in our legislature.
Senator McQuaid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just do want to know for Senator Drazkowski, our state motto is in French and it is in statute. And also the Dakota phrasing of that motto is in statute as well. So we have other languages in statute.
All right. With that, we're going to give Senator Kunesh the final word on the bill. I just want to say thank you for bringing this forward. I've met with, the Minnesota Indian Affairs Council on this last year, and I know it's been contentious, but I think what the advocates had been saying, I think we're trying to put some teeth into this to protect. We're endangering the environment, and so I commend you. It's not an easy discussion. I know some of the advocates had mentioned like it's, it's been a tough fight, but I commend you for bringing it forward. And the last word, Senator Kunesh.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and members, for listening and considering this this legislation. I just want to remind you that Minnesota is already legally required to consider monomenopsin, and the waters it depends on in all state actions according to the treaties. Senate File 3749 just wants to make sure that it takes place as we go forward. I also want to just point out that our tribal members, our indigenous people, our taxpayers in this state too. And the deep concern around litigation is something that if we always made that the focal point, any of the pieces of legislation that we put forward are certainly open to litigation. And so with that, I would ask that we have a positive vote on this and move forward to recognize our state grain and the sacred grains as its inherent right.
Thank you, Senator Kunesh. And with that, Senate File 3749 is laid over for possible inclusion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, we have Senate File 3737. Senator Klein. And we have two testifiers on the bill. Senator Klein, to your bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senate State Government Committee. Senate File 3737 designates January as Snow Professionals Appreciation Month to recognize the hard work that these essential workers do and educates the public about their critical role, which sometimes we take for granted. The snow removal industry includes thousands of small and locally owned businesses as well as local governments across the state, and the critical industry provides jobs and supports Minnesota's winter economy. Snow professionals are frontline winter safety workers who keep roads, sidewalks, and public areas usable during our winter months. Their work reduces accidents and injuries by clearing snow and managing ice through plowing, sanding, and salt application. Reliable snow removal ensures that emergency vehicles, school buses, and commuters can travel safely during winter storms, and that work helps save lives. Snow professionals often work overnight. I think we've all known that and seen that and appreciated that during storms and in extreme cold. Many of us wake up to cleared roads and sidewalks because those crews have been working through the night. So this proposal simply acknowledges their dedication and hard work. Designating every January as Snow Professionals Appreciation Month is a simple but meaningful way to thank the workers who keep Minnesota safe all winter long. And I hope I can have your support, Mr. Chair and committee members.
Thank you, Senator Klein. And to your testifiers, we have Ms. LaPlante. I'm sorry. Please state your name for the record and you may begin.
My name is Paulita LaPlante. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, and thank you, Senator Klein, for your work and leadership on this proposal. My name, again, is Paulita LaPlante. My family founded Prescription Landscape in 1980. With 4 branch locations, we serve the 7-county metro area and provide snow and ice management, grounds care, landscaping, and related land care services to commercial clients. We have 4 branch locations, employ 150 people year-round, and grow to twice that number in the winter months when we provide snow and ice service. I'm here in full support of SF 3737. For our team, January is just not another month on the calendar. It is often a month of extreme mental and physical exhaustion. While the rest of the world sees a white wonderland, our team faces high-stakes safety. We are the first responders helping first responders. If we don't clear snow and ice, emergency entrances, drives, and walkways become hazardous for EMS, patients, and caregivers. Our team faces sacrifice. Our employees juggle childcare at odd hours of the day and night. They miss birthdays, they miss holidays, children's sporting events, and routine family moments at home, all to work outside in 12-hour shifts in freezing weather and whiteout conditions. Modern snow removal is a science. We use advanced liquid anti-icing technology, calibrated equipment, dash cams, multifunctional plows, GPS tracking, and cameras to be as efficient and environmentally conscious as possible. We make our own brine to use in our anti-icing program to reduce salt. We have a snow command operation that monitors the lead up to a weather event and issues plans and updates to stay out of the storm. Our property managers perform QA checks and are available 24/7 for calls for their assigned clients. There is a common misconception that snow removal is unskilled labor. That couldn't be further from the truth. It requires mechanical aptitude, a deep understanding of the chemistry for de-icing, technology awareness, spatial awareness to operate heavy machinery, big iron as we call it, in crowded, slippery spaces and parking lots. By designating January as Snow Professionals Appreciation Month, this bill validates the professional status of our industry. It tells our snow fighting crews that their specialized skills are essential to the state's infrastructure. We have all seen how other states shut down during heavy snow and ice storms, but not Minnesota. And that is solely because of the thousands of snow professionals who work tirelessly to keep Minnesota moving. Recognizing this month provides a platform for education, helping the public understand why we do what we do, and encouraging patience when they see yellow lights flashing on the road. This bill does not cost money. It does not raise revenue, but the ROI in terms of morale and industry respect is immeasurable. Our industry keeps growing and innovating. We are always looking for ways to do our work more efficiently and sustainably. Thank you for your time and for recognizing the hardworking Minnesotans of the snow and ice industry. Please do vote in favor of SF 3737. Thank you.
Thank you. And next up, Mr. Schumacher. Please state your name for the record and you may begin.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Todd Schumacher and I am the Senior Project Coordinator with Landscape Renovations, Inc. in the Twin Cities. As well as in the wintertime, I am the snow removal and anti-icing manager in those months. I want to thank Senator Klein for bringing this bill to the committee. And in addition to what Paulita has also stated, I'll keep my testimony brief, but as a backbone to what she has already said, Landscape Renovations has had a 24-year history of doing high-end landscape design and installation in the great state of Minnesota, but we also do snow and ice removal management in the winter months. I've spent 22 years behind the wheel of a snowplow truck, sometimes in equipment such as bobcats and anti-icing trucks, as well as managing those snow crews and de-icing crews across the Twin Cities during our winter months. I'm here today to testify in strong support of Senate File 3737. While this might seem like a simple honorary designation to those of us in the industry, this bill represents a welcome recognition to the backbone of Minnesota's winter functionality. Snow professionals are offering as previously stated, the invisible workforce. When most Minnesotans are hunkering down during a blizzard warning, my crews are just heading out. And as stated before, much of what we do is in the evenings and on weekends and holidays. The storms really know no schedule. We work anywhere from 8 to 16-hour shifts in sub-zero temperatures, most often in the middle of the night, as I stated, weekends, holidays, to ensure that by 6 a.m., the doctors can get to the hospitals, emergency clearings are open for ambulances, parents can safely drive their kids to school and still make it to work on time. In general, we keep the heartbeat of the city and the state pumping when weather conditions would like to dictate otherwise. We're not just pushing powder. This is a high-stakes technical job that includes precision logistics, keeping our eyes on tracking complex weather patterns to dispatch crews at the exact right moment and of the correct size, environmental stewardship, carefully calibrating and managing de-icing applications and equipment to protect our local watersheds, and complex equipment operation, ensuring that we can use our vehicles and machinery efficiently to troubleshoot as needed in order to get the job done. This work is physically demanding, high stress, sometimes pulls us away from our families during those precious holidays and those winter weekends. By designating January as Snow Professionals Appreciation Month, the state will send a powerful message to our young operators and including our veteran drivers. Your hard work is seen, and your contribution to public safety is valued. This recognition helps professionalize the trade and assists in our efforts to recruit and retain the dedicated workers needed to keep our state moving. In Minnesota, snow isn't just a weather event, it's a way of life. We take pride in being the best in the country at managing it. As previously stated, some states end up shutting down. This bill is a meaningful way to say thank you to the thousands of Minnesotans who keep our sidewalks, streets, and public areas safe during our unforgiving winter months. Thank you for listening to my testimony, and I ask that you please vote in favor of this bill, SF 3737.
Thank you, and members of the committee, any questions or comments? Senator Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Klein, for adding me as a co-author. You know, it might initially seem funny, like, why am I not carrying this bill? Because, like, snow and roads is all about me, but it's really actually more appropriate for a doctor to be carrying this bill because, above all, snow and ice control is really about safety. You know, if people can't get to school, that's an inconvenience, but if emergency workers can't get to work or get to your house, that is critical. And having grown up in this environment and been here forever, I know that not having a clear way to critical emergency services is really important. So thank you, Senator Klein, for adding me to the bill and for bringing this issue today. I support this and hope everyone else does too.
Thank you. Any other members, questions or comments from the bench? Senator Klein, I did slip on ice a few weeks ago and I have a torn meniscus. And so thank you. Senator Klein, any final words?
I liked how Mr. Chair, I liked how the testifiers pointed out that we are pretty proud in this state, especially when we hear stories about how in Iowa or in Atlanta they had to shut down after an inch of snow. And of course, we're too rugged for that, and it's because of the people who spoke to you today. So I hope you can join me in acknowledging their good work and their backbone support for Minnesota.
Thank you. And with that, Senate File 3737 is laid over for possible inclusion. Next up, we have Senate File 3626, Senator Mann's bill that Senator May Quaid will be presenting on, the Interstate Teacher Mobility Compact establishment. And as you get settled in, Senator May Quaid, you may begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Senate File 3626 is a teacher licensure compact bill that removes barriers to getting more teachers to Minnesota. We have a supply and demand mismatch with much higher demand than we have supply. 10 states already participate in this compact, including Nevada, Florida, Colorado, Oregon, and Alabama. And very importantly, this will not decrease our standards of teacher excellence in our state. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator McQuaid. Just one testifier today. To the testifier, please state your name for the record, and you may begin. Whenever you're ready. I think you're still getting set up.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, my name is Dr. Elena Bailey. I am the Executive Director of the Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board, the state agency responsible for teacher accreditation, licensure, and renewal in Minnesota, otherwise known as PELSB. Having a little bit of technical difficulty, but happy to do a brief walkthrough of the Interstate Teacher Mobility Compact, otherwise known as the ITMC. Oh.
They just didn't put it up there before. Now you got it.
But it's
Try hitting the arrow.
nope. Okay. Well, we'll just walk through it. Might have to not show my slides. Apologies for that. I believe you have copies of them, so I'll walk through. The Interstate Teacher Mobility Compact is simply an occupational compact that increases flexibility for teachers moving between member states. It is unique from other, try one last time. Let's see if this will work. It's unique from other compacts in a couple of key ways. One, it sets some criteria for eligibility, including having a bachelor's degree, for example, and completing a teacher preparation program. It has some strict guidance in that compact to protect state sovereignty over the license that's issued in that state. So unlike other occupational compacts, it's not that someone would use a license from the state they're coming from. Instead, it simply means if they meet certain criteria, they're issued the equivalent license here in Minnesota, and we still retain certain rights to do background checks and to take discipline and action on that license. I'll have to do it this way. So, here we go. Well, it's not going to work. I'll just have to walk through this on my own. My apologies. I'll do a brief walkthrough of the different articles in this. I will say that this is a compact that came out of the Department of Defense, and then later the Council of State Governors took this up. In order to be enacted in a state, it has to be passed without any modifications to the compact. Otherwise, it's null and void. So I have a map that's in my slides that you can't see, but one of the states that introduced this legislation made some changes at their legislature, and because of that, it's not actually functional, and so they have to go back and repass the legislation. So Article 1 in this compact simply defines the purpose of the compact to facilitate mobility for teachers between member states. Article 2 establishes some definitions of key terms that are used throughout the compact. Article 3 simply describes the mode of reciprocity and upholds state sovereignty and narrows the scope of the compact to just facilitate that reciprocity. Article 4 highlights some specific cases of operation. So, for example, states can impose additional renewal criteria, so states still retain authority over the license and can add additional criteria to the license to say, once someone comes from a member state to Minnesota, if this is passed, they have to do additional renewal requirements in order to, maybe I'm getting some assistance, in order to. Okay. My apologies, apparently you don't have the slides. I did send those last week, but I'm not sure what happened. Perfect. Yeah, perfect. So Article 4, as I said, also allows us to require additional documentation for salary schedules. And again, we maintain ownership over the data of the license, and it doesn't have any impact on existing relationships between states for reciprocity. Article 5 simply goes through some of the requirements for teachers to utilize that compact. So for example, a teacher who is a part of this compact or has an eligible license still has to go through a criminal background check and has to provide whatever necessary information for salary scheduling. Article 6 simply says that the state has disciplinary authority over the license. So in Minnesota, our agency is responsible for investigations of teacher ethics complaints, and that would remain in place if we were to join this compact. If we issue someone a license under this compact, we still maintain the authority to do those ethics investigations. Article 7 outlines the composition and powers of the Compact Commission, which is simply an organization with representatives from the member states that help facilitate and execute the agreement. Article 8 outlines rulemaking authority under the compact, and again, it shows that if there's any conflicts between the rulemaking and the state, that the state legislature can pass laws to negate that rulemaking authority. Article 9 simply requires that the commission, that body that helps facilitate, does its due diligence to help facilitate the mobility across member states. Article 10 outlines compliance with the compact and has some procedures if a state fails to comply with the requirements of the compact. Article 11 simply has the date of enactment and some terms for withdrawal or amendment. Article 12 outlines the relationship between the compact and both the federal constitution and state constitutions. Again, overall, the highlight is that the compact defers to states and to federal sovereignty in those cases. Article 13 reiterates that teachers are still subject to the scope of practice and laws in the state in which they're issued a license. So while this simply facilitates mobility, a person who holds a license is still subject to all the laws and jurisdiction of that particular state. And if there are conflicts, the state law is superseded to the extent of the conflict. And that is a walkthrough of this. I imagine there may be questions given some of the technical difficulties. I'm happy to answer those.
Mr. Chair.
Senator McQuaid.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think for the purposes of this committee, I think rulemaking is our primary jurisdiction. That would be Article.
Yes, and so could we keep the testimony on Article 8? And I think it starts page 11, right? Senator McQuaid or the testifier. Members, any questions or comments on the bill? Senator Lang.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of quick ones. Of course, I know Section 8, that was the first question I was going to ask, is what is our jurisdiction? But I'm assuming this came through policy and has come through the process, just because it's a big bill. It seems like a good idea, right? So let me say this right. The Interstate Teacher Mobility Compact Commission, who do they answer to? Because it sounds like a bunch of states. Is it still the purview of the Department of Education that has oversight on that, or is it completely on its own? And then if it's on its own, obviously it's going to need a fiscal note of some kind or establishment. It sounds like they're going to hire employees.
Senator McQuaid or the testifier.
Dr. Bailey.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, members, that's a great question. So this is, different members of states are elected to join this, and it's a part of the service of them working in, for example, agencies like ours. So if Minnesota were to join this compact, either a member of our board or myself would represent Minnesota, and it's simply a body that gives input so that the commission is working in the interests of all the member states. And again, if any rulemaking is done, the legislature has the authority to veto something if it's in, our state would have the authority to veto something that is in conflict. So a simple majority of the legislature could veto that.
Senator Lang?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was asking. I was just looking for the right and left limits of what the compact looks like and really how the members are instituted. You're mostly members of a Department of Education that have additional duties of some sort or another.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Senator McQuaid.
And to be clear, Dr. Bailey is the head of PELSB, not anything at Department of Education. So it's its own agency.
To clarify, education professionals within the state of Minnesota.
Any other questions or comments, Senator Barr?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not quite sure which one to direct the question to, but I want to make sure, because the standards we place upon our teachers, like PELSB has the Tier 1 through Tier 4 standards, how is that going to be affected if we join the compact with our actual teacher licensing from somebody who comes from, let's say they move here from Wisconsin. They live in Hudson, they want a Minnesota license. They are currently teaching just across the border. They want to get, they got a job right across the river. They don't have to actually move, let's say, but the standards are different between the two. How does this compact affect those standards?
Senator McQuaid or the testifier?
Sure, I'll start.
Senator McQuaid.
And then I'll pass it to Dr. Bailey. So this only would be for people who are moving from other compact states, and they would be issued an equivalent license to whatever it is that they had in the state that they were teaching in, based on the criteria in the compact, and there's some, like if they weren't subject to a disciplinary action, so on and so forth. And so someone coming from Wisconsin's not part of the compact. I'm not sure if they're considering it. But if somebody came from Kansas, they would be issued an equivalent license, and I will let Dr. Bailey speak to it. If there's not like an exact equivalent, I think it's the one right, like whichever is the least of the two. Yeah.
Dr.
Yes, Mr. Chair, members, great question. So we in Minnesota actually passed a number of laws, or you all passed a number of laws in 2023 that significantly streamlined movement between states already. And so if someone holds a professional license in another state and they've passed the required testing in that state, they can just transfer in and they get that full professional license here in Minnesota. So we have great reciprocity laws. This would, though, reduce the paperwork time, so that person, if they are part of that member state, they don't have to submit transcripts and additional things. We can simply do the background check and issue them a license. So for practical purposes, it's about reducing some of the paperwork and timing. But what Senator Mayquade shared is absolutely correct, that for member states, this would simply give them the equivalent license. And the compact itself requires that they have certain standards that would be similar to our Tier 3 or Tier 4 license. So it's pretty easy to move between states in that regard.
Thank you, Senator Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Quick follow-up. So could you give me, like, currently if somebody, because Wisconsin's not a member state, and let's see, okay, we don't have any actual neighbors that touch us. The closest one is Nebraska, it looks like. If somebody moved here from a non-compact state, how long would it take them to actually get their license compared to somebody in a compact state? Being streamlined, what's the difference in time?
Doctor.
Mr. Chair, members, great question. So currently we have in statute a 30-day requirement regardless. So once we have a completed application, we get those through in 30 days. Summer, when it's our busy season, it's going to take 30 days. Usually now, if they are coming in, it's going to take less. We wait for the BCA background check, which is the longest piece, which is typically maybe 2 weeks or so. So if someone's coming in from a member state without the paperwork, they could get that background check and be issued within 2 weeks. Someone who isn't from a member state and we have to both get their transcripts and additional, it may take closer to that full 30 days.
Thank you. Senator Barr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Great bill. I really like the concept of streamlining and things like that, making it easy for people to move around and keep their professional license. I'm hoping we can do this in some of the other professions we have, like maybe nursing. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Mayquade. Any final words to the bill? Thank you for presenting the bill. And with that, Senate file 3626 is laid over for possible inclusion. Just laid over. Sorry. Thank you. And then next up, we have Senator Westlin, Senate File 3833. And I think there is an amendment to the bill.
That's correct.
All right, Senator Westlin, whenever you are ready, you may begin.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I do have an A1 amendment. It is a delete everything amendment that made some structural changes to the Legislative Commission on Legislative Security, which is being proposed. And actually, Mr. Chair, once we do this, I would like to make one more tweak to it that I think can be done by an oral amendment that I think will make this a better bill.
Certainly. With that, Senator Mayquade moves was it the A1?
Correct.
A1 amendment, and then we would amend the amendment, Council. All right. Senator Westlin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So before I launch into the additional oral amendment, let me just speak briefly about the purpose of the bill. I'm currently on the advisory committee for capital area security, and as many of you are aware, that particular committee has as its jurisdiction really the Capitol complex. And unfortunately, as we all know too well, there have been not only the incidents that occurred on June 14th, but additional incidents that have occurred recently with threats against members of the legislature away from the Capitol complex. And I think as we are looking at these issues this year, there are a number of bills out there trying to figure out how really to deal with protection and security for members of the legislature, as well as other individuals. The purpose of this is to establish a commission that would address specifically legislative security. It would be a commission that is being set up similar to other commissions with the purpose of being a place where any bills that members of the legislature might want to bring forward on security would go through that commission potentially first as we see often with data practices bills. They go through the Legislative Commission on Data Practices. It would also be a commission that would have the ability to gather its own information and take a look at recommendations or suggestions that they might want to make to the legislature as well. In setting this up initially, I think both in the other body and here, we initially were envisioning this where the majority would have 5 members and the minority would have 2, and that doesn't make any sense. And so in conversation with members from the other body who are carrying this, the oral amendment that I would like to make actually would frame this as a bipartisan commission in the way that ACAS is, where there are equal members from each party. The oral amendment that I would like to make, and I'll let council pretty this up, but the oral amendment would be on line 1.6. It currently states 7 members of the Senate. I would change that to 6 members of the Senate, comma, and then cross out the word 5 and change that to 3, of whom are appointed by the Senate majority. And then on line 1.7, cross out 2 and change that to 3. And then the same changes on 1.8 through 1.9, with again the idea being that the Senate and the other body would each appoint 6 members, 3 from the majority, 3 from the minority. It seems to me that this should be a bipartisan commission because this really is for the benefit of all legislators. So if someone would want to make that motion, Mr. Chair, that is the oral amendment I would like to move.
Thank you. Senate Counsel?
Mr. Chair, the committee has not yet adopted the A1.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So an option would be to move the A1 as amended orally, as Senator Westlin has described.
Certainly. Senator Lang?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that. That was I already had circle. I was going to ask, here's the thing. I've been around here long enough to know how this works, and the change in ebb and flow of not only policy that comes out of committees like this, but I appreciate that amendment. I think that the product probably would be a little more balanced. And truthfully, I think it might be more permanent is possibly the way we would look at it. Thank you.
Thank you. Senator McQuaid, did you have a comment, or you're moving? Senator McQuaid would like to move the A1 amendment as orally amended. Do we have to repeat the language, Council?
I don't think so.
And so with that, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The A1 amendment, the A1 amendment as orally amended is adopted. Senator Westlin.
Thank you so much. And thank you very much. It just, as we were pulling this together, we're sort of putting pen to paper, and as this often happens, things improve with time and thought. So the other thing that I will mention is there is an overlap, and one of the requirements is that one of the Senate members and one of the members from the other body also have to concurrently be on the advisory committee for capital area security. It just seemed to make sense that there would be some overlap in those conversations, and so that the membership should include people who are already serving on the ACAS committee. There's information there about the terms. I think terms and vacancies is pretty standard language. We're looking at 2-year terms. The commission itself would elect the chair and any other officers that they deem appropriate or necessary, and then the chair would alternate between the Senate and the other body. And the chair would also serve for a 2-year term. The staff, again, the Legislative Coordinating Commission, as they do, would provide administrative services. If you look at 2.1 to 2.4, this really gets into the heart of the duties of the commission. The commission should study, research, and analyze issues related to security needs of state legislators and staff while in the legislative districts. and review recommendations regarding legislation that impacts security for elected officials and staff. And again, that's where folks have ideas for improving legislator security. Perhaps that might be brought to this commission first before bringing it and dropping it as a bill during the regular session. It does indicate that the meetings typically should be open meetings, but as with ACAS, there are times where specific security items are being discussed, which would be subject to closed meetings. ACAS tries not to go into executive session unless absolutely necessary, but obviously when we're talking about security, we don't want to be telescoping vulnerabilities to potential bad actors. And so this does also then include procedures for closed meetings and the requirements of that. The commission would submit a report to the chairs and ranking members of Rules and Administration and provide that information regarding their work. That is the heart of the bill. It's unfortunate that we seem to be spending a fair amount of our time this year talking about security. It's appalling to continue to see our colleagues, both in this body and in the other body, receiving serious threats of harm for simply doing their jobs. And, this impacts our families, it impacts our friends and the people around us. And so I do think that it is appropriate for us to have a commission that focuses more on the security for legislators outside of the Capitol complex, because ACAS that is not within the jurisdiction of that particular commission. I'm happy to stand for questions. I believe the next stop for the bill is rules. I am more than happy to continue work on this if anyone has additional comments or ideas, but that's the bill in a nutshell. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Barr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Westlin, I have a few questions. I'm going to start with on your DE. First, let me say that I appreciate the change you made to make it truly a bipartisan. I think that's good for all of us. Line 2.9, it's about when we go into a closed meeting. It says the records shall not be made available to the public for at least 8 years, but no more than 20. Who makes the determination?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Westlin.
I might have to phone a friend. I don't know if this is also the same language that ACAS uses, and that's why I'm getting a nod. Yeah.
Senator Barr, seems like it's what ACAS uses.
So we're going to follow under their rules then? Is that what it is? Does that need to be mentioned in here or in accordance with?
Senator.
Something to consider, because you're going to rules, right? So something to consider as you're going to rules. Sorry.
Senator Coran might know.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator Westlin. It looks like very similar language to what we set up for the Cybersecurity Commission. So that it would be minimum of 8 years, but no longer than 20. But even at 8 years, you could entertain requests, and they would be reviewed by the Legislative Coordinating Commission in conjunction, right, with a variety of resources that would determine whether the release of that information at that period of time, even after 8 years, would constitute any disclosure of that would put ourselves or the programs or at risk. So that's we worked on it for quite a bit when we were putting together the Legislative Security Commission, and that information remains not public data. But in most cases, the operational procedures, we don't allow phones, papers. They're all collected. Everything is then stored in the Legislative Coordinating Commission is the management of that information collected. And then, of course, any disclosure request or public data request would go through them and for consideration before the content of the specific request. Would it still not pose any public harm by releasing it, then they can release it. So,
Mr. Chair.
Senator Westlin.
Thank you, Senator Coran. And actually, when Ms. James was assisting with this, she did model much of this after the Cybersecurity Commission. So thank you.
And Senator Barr.
So just as a close on that, I'm good with the explanation. I don't know if it needs to be mentioned in the bill, determined by, or I guess maybe it shall be maintained should not be available, I guess, at the determination of the LCC upon public data request. I don't know if that needs to be mentioned in there or not, something to consider going forward. Another question I had was, does this work in conjunction with the Capital Security stuff, their Capital Security Commission, or is this totally separate? And then I'm going to ask my last question so you can kind of catch them all at once. The last one is, it doesn't actually say duties anywhere in the bill. Does that need to be also clarified what the duties of this commission are?
Mr. Chair.
Senator Westlin, but I think it is subdivision 5, is it? Senator Westlin?
Mr. Chair, Senator, 2.1 to 2.4, no worries. And thank you for your question, Senator, about, I know that there was a conversation in the other body as to this commission being a standalone commission versus being adjunct to the advisory committee on capital area security. The bill sets it up as separate, but it has the crossover because members of ACAS have to be, one member from the Senate and one from the other body need to be on this commission. There may be some good argument for having this be a subcommittee of ACAS. I think that, however, is going to require really rewriting the ACAS bill to include this under its jurisdiction. And so at this point, I'm proposing this as a separate commission. I'm not philosophically opposed to doing it differently, but that's just how we've set it up at this time.
Thank you, Senator Drazkowski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Senator Gustafson, sorry.
Thank you, Senator Westlin. I appreciate the sunset on the bill. I really wonder about the need for it, but I understand the motivations, and I'm wondering maybe a way to enhance it might be to, along with the sunset, provide some sort of I can't think of a different term, but ramp to bring those duties then to ACAS on that date, and that might ensure that whoever's here then doesn't just simply extend the sunset.
Senator Westlin.
Mr. Chair, Senator, I appreciate the input. I think that's not a bad idea. Like I say, I'm happy to take in all of these ideas, and again, it may make sense at some point to actually bring this under ACAS. That may make the most sense. And the reason I did it separately right now is I think that it requires a whole lot of tinkering with ACAS in order to absorb that under their jurisdiction. But I like the idea of moving it over to ACAS. I think that makes sense at some point.
Thank you, Senator Gustafson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Westlin, for the bill. But, we don't need to inform anybody of why this is important. Everybody knows Minnesota has experienced quite a bit and we had a pretty tragic interim. I just want to say, I think we should do this. I think I'm happy to hear that we're moving forward and the changes that are being made. I was late to committee today because I was on the phone with law enforcement because of a threat of violence against me in my own district. And I don't say that for sympathy, but it's sort of common now. I mean, the amount of death threats and threats of violence against myself or my family doesn't even feel rare anymore. And I think it doesn't mean that political elected officials are more important than any other human being in this state. But it is an attack on the office, no matter who holds the office. And unfortunately, we seem to be living in a time where people want to settle their political grievances by removing us entirely, not just from office. And then, of course, the threats to our family are never okay. So I do think that this is warranted. I know that there will be some people who think it isn't, and I know I'm not giving intention to what Senator Drazkowski said. I just think that we maybe aren't doing enough. We still don't know what happens if someone threatens us. Who is the direct person we call outside of 911? We still have so many questions about, even though we feel safe here and the security measures that have been put in place have been appreciated, we still carry our titles with us out into the world, out into our communities. I do a town hall and I want to let people know about it. Now there's a question of how are we going to keep everyone safe? I moved to doing more virtual town halls, which I don't love, but sometimes it's just easier to, if I can't find security in time. I just, there's a lot of unanswered questions, and a commission like this might provide some answers. So I want everybody here to be safe. I want everybody, no matter what they do for a living, to be safe. But I do think that this is needed, and I appreciate your work.
Thank you. And Senator Westlin, any final comments?
Mr. Chair, no further comments. I do appreciate all of the thoughtful conversation today. I appreciate some of the ideas. I'm happy to have additional conversations if folks have ideas on how to improve this. I agree, Senator Gustafson. It's a weird thing. Even in just the 4 years since we've first come here, there are things I think about now that I never used to think about. And it's happening across the board. And we've, again, had two very recent, very serious threats against the Speaker and against our colleague, Senator Gruenhagen, and actually general threats against all of us in that same thing. And I agree with you that I think most of us decided to do this because we wanted to serve our communities, because we felt we had something to offer our communities. And in doing so, it shouldn't bring with it the kind of threats that are coming. We should solve our differences with our words and not by threatening people. So I appreciate the consideration today very much in the conversation. Thank you.
All right, and with that, Senator Gustafson moves Senate File 3833 as amended to be recommended to pass and referred to the Rules Committee. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The motion prevails. Senate File 3833 as amended is recommended to pass and referred to the Rules Committee. All right, and then next up, Senator Hemmingsen-Jaeger is currently unavailable right now, so I will be presenting my bill next, and the gavel will be given to Senator Gustafson. You're in charge now.
Senator Xiong to present Senate File 4059. Whenever you're ready, please begin.
Yep, thank you. Members, Senate File 4059 provides one-time funding for public television stations serving greater Minnesota. The bill appropriates $1.925 million for year 2027 for operating grants to 5 stations: Pioneer PBS, Lakeland PBS, KSMQ, PBS North, and Prairie Public. This funding is needed because public television stations recently lost federal corporation for public broadcasting funding. In Minnesota, stations lost about $9 million in funding. Greater Minnesota stations were hit the hardest, in some cases losing 30 to 40% of their operating budgets, causing them to cut programming. This is not intended to permanently replace federal funding. It provides a lifeline while stations work to transition to more sustainable models. Public television provides educational programming, content for local communities and emergency alerts, messaging. Local stations ensure greater Minnesota communities continue to have access to local content. And with that, Madam Chair, I turn it over to the testifiers who can speak more directly about the impact on the stations and what this funding will be able to do.
All right, we'll go to the first testifier. If you could identify your name for the record and begin.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, my name is Bill Straczynski. I'm with Libby Law Office, and I represent the Friends of Public Television, and I have done so for over 42 years. This is an important matter, and we are at a very difficult time right now, one of the most difficult financial times in my experiences with this entity. Thank you, Senator Xiong and Senator Lang, for leading the charge and putting this bill forward. We're grateful to the legislature for all the work and strong support we've had over all of these years for public television. You don't need to be reminded of the critical role that PBS stations play in our state, and with our schools, and with our seniors, and with our military and everyone else. Public television in our communities, I recently discovered this concept. Public television creates an aha moment for people. We teach every day. We teach our residents to be appreciative, to be humorous, and to be adventurous. That's what public television does. It inspires that way. Our original business model, going back to the 70s, I was first involved when I was Deputy Commissioner and Commissioner of Administration back in the 70s, when public television was one of the agencies we regulated in the Department of Administration. It was created on a three-legged stool. And unlike other states where public television, PBS, is owned by a state government or their university system, state university system, taxpayers are responsible for all of that. But in Minnesota, we were created on a three-legged stool with federal support, state support, and community support. And I don't need to remind you, the Minnesota legislature has put in over $100 million, close to $170 million over these years into public television. You are a partner with us. Unfortunately, we lost $9 million in federal cuts just this last year. We were noticed in September, you are not going to get the money starting October 1st. $9 million from the federal government. To put it in perspective, this committee last year, appropriated $4 million for public television for the biennium. We lost $9 million in 1 year. Very difficult. We didn't really see that coming. Difficult to recover from all of that. In any case, we laid off people and curtailed all of our activities, some activities, to the point where it's starting to affect vital core interests. Now, we're not asking the state legislature to replace the $9 million. We are asking the state legislature to help us transition to a different business model or a different funding model than the three-legged stool we've had in the past. We need you to help us to quit spending our reserves, which these rural greater Minnesota stations are doing right now. They're going to run out of money next year, for sure. But we need your help to transition us to July 1st, 2028 or 27, where we can really have this thing figured out. We can't do it overnight. We need your help. That's my message here. So we want to help you. We want you to help us keep our stations viable and going forward. And finally, PBS promotes and creates good citizens. You've seen our citizenship programs. We create good citizens under the doctrine of sapere aude. Dare to be wise or dare to know. This Latin concept means the courage to use your own reason. That's what public television does. We need your help. I'd like to turn it over to Sherry Lamke, who's going to speak on behalf of the Greater Minnesota Stations.
Thank you. If you could identify yourself for the record and then proceed when you're ready.
Thank you. I'm Sherry Lamke, the President and General Manager of Pioneer PBS out of Granite Falls, Minnesota. We serve the whole kind of western side of the state, so 26 counties in Minnesota. Good afternoon, Chairman Xiong, and members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today, and your consideration of this bill is greatly appreciated. To speak to public television is to speak of the agora, or the common ground where the citizens of Minnesota gather to learn, to witness, and to understand one another. I come before you representing my station and our sister stations across Greater Minnesota, not merely with a request for an appropriation, but to advocate for the preservation of our shared intellectual and cultural heritage. A few months back, the sudden federal rescission of CPB funding struck a devastating blow to our foundation. For Pioneer PBS, this was not merely a budgetary trim. This was a seismic shift that erased 30% of our operating budget. We rely on those funds to make sure our neighbors are given information and to lift the voices of Western Minnesota to the world. If you would allow me to quote Aristotle, who famously observed that the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, He understood that for a collective body to thrive, each individual component must be resilient and well supported. When one part of our civic infrastructure is compromised, the strength of the entire Minnesota network is diminished. We find ourselves at a historical crossroads. We've already made painful sacrifices required by such a crisis. In other words, we've severely reduced staff, we've shuttered community favorite programs, and are drawing upon our final reserves. But a bridge can't be built while the builders are struggling just to stay afloat. We recognize that with great challenge comes the necessity for deep reflection and change. In that spirit, we are not here asking for a permanent subsidy to maintain the status quo. Instead, we are asking for resources to examine, reinvent, and re-engineer. The $350,000 requested for Pioneer PBS and the total $1,925,000 for our Greater Minnesota Coalition represents a transitional bridge. This investment serves three vital purposes. First, it preserves the local identity of each station in rural communities where too often local identities are given way to the urban and metropolitan communities. Each community in Minnesota has a story that no statewide or national network will ever tell. We are the stewards of those important stories. Second, the strategic evolution. We're currently re-engineering our business models to evaluate and integrate shared services up to and including fundraising, legal, HR, finance, and technical functions to ensure we emerge as a leaner and more agile organization. And third is our continuity of service. While we pivot to a sustainable model, the education of our children and the distribution of emergency messaging cannot lapse. We must maintain our services to the citizenry relying on us, even as we work to modernize the gears of that operation. We have a long-term commitment to serve Minnesotans, and we do not view the state of Minnesota as a mere benefactor, but as the most essential partner. For 60 years, this partnership has yielded cradle-to-grave programming that informs the voter, inspires the student, and connects the isolated. We're proud of our work, but we're even more committed to our future. We're here for the long haul. We possess the will to innovate and the vision to adapt, but we lack the immediate capital to complete this transformation without collapsing under the weight of the sudden federal withdrawal. To conclude, members of the committee, an investment in SF 4059 is an affirmation that the citizens of Greater Minnesota deserve both a window to the world and a mirror to their own lives. We ask for the resources to pivot, the time to evolve, and the opportunity to continue our mission. Let us not be the generation that allowed the lights of local discourse to go dark. Help us build this bridge to a sustainable future so that Pioneer PBS and all the Greater Minnesota public television stations may continue to serve the citizens of this great state for decades to come.
Thank you. And I appreciate your passion for this subject. I know it's been rough on you guys. We have an oral amendment, Senator Xiong, that I think you'll all find friendly. It's a date change, and I'm going to hand it over to council to describe a little bit of what we need to do.
Madam Chair and members, the intention was that this money would be appropriated in fiscal year 2026, not 2027, and that's why the immediate effective date. And so on line 1.6, the amendment that's needed is to change 2027 to 2026.
Senator Xiong?
Yes.
So we will move the oral amendment. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Oral amendment is accepted. Senator Xiong, or members, I'm sorry, members, any questions, comments? Senator Johnson-Stewart.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Xiong, for bringing this. You know, I start to cry too when I think about losing public television. I want members to notice this is a bipartisan bill. I'm a Democrat. Senator Lang is on this bill, Senator Dornick. Gosh, when my girls were little, we just had Channel 2. That's all we ever had on our TV at home. And I'm just really sad about what's happening with public television. My parents, as I mentioned last time, grew up in Pepin, Wisconsin. Lived in Pepin. rural public TV is what we had, not only on TV, but we had rural public radio on. It is a lifeline for people who live in rural areas. And I'm just mad about this, but I'm also glad that we have an opportunity to come to your rescue. I heard you loud and clear. This is not, you understand that you have to change. And I think that's true. We all have to change. Those of us that support public TV have to step up even more. Frankly, same with public radio, and acknowledge what a jewel it is for our country, regardless of where we live. And so thank you to all of the senators who brought this bill forward, both Republican and Democrat, for just acknowledging what a value public television brings to our communities. And so I encourage everyone on this committee to vote yes. And thank you.
Thank you. I would also just feel the need to chime in. You said public radio, and it is so important too. As somebody who's on public radio for years, you know, and maybe Senator Barr can back me up as somebody who is a truck driver, but radio is important as well. This is about public television, which I am a yes on. But I do think that we are at a point where we have to recognize the true value that these services offer to our community as a whole. Not to put pressure on you, Senator Barr, but just, I figured you probably listen to the radio occasionally. Senators, any other comments or questions? All right, seeing none, Senator Xiong, any closing thoughts?
Just quickly, that I appreciated the Friends of Minnesota Public Television working with me and the other senators trying to come up with options and some sort of plan to make this all work for everybody in all the different stations. So thank you, and I hope we could get the support to move this forward.
All right, seeing no further discussion, Senate File 4059 is laid over for possible inclusion.
So Senator Hemmingsen-Jaeger is back. Are you ready? We'll start off with Senate File 4001. The Board of Barber Examiners Provisions Modifications. And it looks like we have a testifier from the Board of Barber Examiners. Nice to see you again. Senator Hemmingsen-Jaeger.
Thank you. Open my notes here. All right. So thank you, members. Thank you, Chair, for hearing this bill today. I believe this bill has come before this committee and this body in one shape or another. It's pretty straightforward. It is legislation for the Board of Barbers Examiners Board, to help kind of make their work more efficient, more effective, and also kind of update some of the regulations and licensing expectations that we have for this profession. I would like to introduce our testifier so that he can kind of get more into the meat and the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, Mr. Grabinowski, whenever you're ready, please state your name for the record and you may begin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Brent Grabinowski. I am the Executive Director of the Minnesota Board of Barber Examiners. I'm here today representing the board, who's responsible for developing this bill in coordination with licensees and stakeholders in the barbering industry. This bill will remove barriers of entry for those interested in entering the profession of barbering in Minnesota. The bill allows the board to conduct additional and more frequent examinations, which will give barber students additional opportunities to prove that they can safely provide barber services and get them out into the workforce faster. There's currently a requirement that barber students who fail our registered barber exam be required to complete an additional 500 hours of barber school. That amounts to another 3 months of school and considerable expense. This bill will remove that requirement. There's language in the bill that modifies our examination fees. These changes were necessary to match the new structure of our examination process and will not result in an increase of fees to licensees. The fiscal note shows a very small increase in expenses to the board, about $1,000. The board can absorb these costs and is not seeking an increase to our appropriation. Finally, this bill will incorporate recommendations from the Office of the Legislative Auditor. This includes providing licensed cosmetologists credit for overlapping training, reducing duplicative education requirements if a cosmetologist is interested in becoming a registered barber. It also changes a 10th grade education requirement for becoming a registered barber to requiring that applicants be at least 17 years of age to more align with national barber standards. I thank you for considering this bill, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the information. Members, any questions or comments to the bill? Mr. Grabanowski, I think the last time we met, we had some discussions on trying to bring it a year earlier when I first got here. Have there been, like, you know, changes in the industry of like students or applicants, you know, technology that impacts the, you know, licensing or testing of the students?
Probably the biggest change we've seen is post-pandemic, barbering's become very popular. So we're seeing an increased number of barber students going to barber school. And this bill would help us be able to schedule more exams to get those people out into the workforce. Because we might get to a point where we just can't examine enough students given the number of examinations we're limited to right now.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Senator Hemmingsen-Jaeger, any final, Senator Barr, and then I'll give you the final word. Senator Barr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maybe the question's for you. I remember you poked my memory here. You had the mobile barber thing. Is maybe the barber exam can, the representative from the board there can chime in on this. Has there been any movement on that?
No, I think we had to work out, you know, I think there's some liability issues or other changes that need to be ADA accessibility that we're still trying to work through. And I don't know, Mr. Grabanowski might have other additional information, or Senator Hemmingsen-Jaeger.
Yeah, good question. I actually carried that bill in the House. And we decided to kind of split them apart, focus on the Board of Barber Examiners, and then look at kind of digging into the mobile barber bills, especially in my opinion, kind of with the gig economy. Look at different ways that we can look at that so we can still provide a service in a more accessible way.
So,
Senator Barr.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm maybe cheating here a little bit, but I'm looking at the next bill, and it's talking about indoor and outdoor. So maybe there's a way we can incorporate the mobile barber to have, they pull up in their RV or whatever vehicle they have, you put up a little awning and you can do outdoor, which would take care of your ADA accessibility and some things like that. And that your next bill talks about differences between indoor and outdoor. So throw in some suggestions there to help those in the gig economy and some of our maybe disabled vets who'd like a good shave. And I know it doesn't look like it, but every once in a while, sitting down in the barber chair and just getting a good straight razor cleanup is awful nice.
Members, any other additional questions or comments? Senator Hemmingsen-Jaeger, the final word.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those ideas, Senator Barr. Yeah, I mean, it's a good bill, straightforward. Appreciate your consideration and support.
All right, with that, seeing no further discussion, Senate File 4001 is laid over for possible inclusion. And then, Senator, we have your next bill, Senate File 4217. And looks like you have an amendment in the packet too. Would you like to move your amendment?
Yes, please.
Senator Hemmingsen-Jaeger moves the A1 amendment. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The amendment is adopted. Senator, to your bill.
Thank you, and thank you for adopting the amendment just as an effective date to make sure we are in good shape. So similar to the last bill, this bill focuses on the Board of Cosmetology. Again, looking at updating with the current industry, looking at getting rid of duplicative or unnecessary rules, and incorporating OLA recommendations as well. And again, I would like to pass it over to our testifier, who's the real subject matter expert.
was it Ms. Bull, right? Ms.
Yes.
Bull, whenever you're ready, please state your name for the record, and you may begin.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. My name is Jenna Bull, and I'm here on behalf of the Minnesota Board of Cosmetology. The board licenses and regulates more than 40,000 cosmetology professionals and salons across Minnesota. The bill before you makes a series of policy and technical updates intended to improve the administration of cosmetology licensing in Minnesota. Several provisions also implement recommendations from the Office of Legislative Auditors following its evaluation of the board. Overall, the bill focuses on three main goals, which are improving efficiency, reducing unnecessary administrative burden, and clarifying statutory language so it better reflects how the industry and the board operate today. First, several provisions implement OLA recommendations, including aligning instructor license renewal cycles and eliminating a fee, eliminating the rarely used special events permit, and extending the duration of military temporary licenses while removing the associated fee. These changes simplify processes for licensees while maintaining appropriate regulatory oversight. Second, the bill includes provisions to improve administrative efficiency. For example, it authorizes the board's complaint committee to issue disciplinary orders while preserving the respondent's ability to request a hearing, and it establishes a corrective action process focused on education and compliance for minor issues. Finally, the bill makes a number of clarifying and modernization updates, such as recognizing overlapping training between barbers and cosmetology programs, updating aesthetics definitions to align with existing law and rule, and making technical revisions to improve consistency in statute. The bill is intended to make regulatory framework more efficient, clearer for licensees, and easier for the board to administer. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right. With that, any questions or comments, Senator Barr?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My wife interacts with your board regularly. She's a cosmetologist, used to be a salon owner. And I'm kind of curious about, I mean, she could probably go on and on for hours, but one specific thing that she has mentioned recently that I think will affect all of anybody who has a license, she sent in a renewal. About 3 weeks before expiration, the check was cashed the next week. She got to 2 days before renewal, didn't have the license, kept trying to call the board, and all she got was hang-ups. I'm pretty sure there's a problem there, so I wanted to bring that to your attention, that nobody's answering the phone at the board to check up on where's my license, is it in the mail, what's going on, those kind of things. So if you could check up on that a little bit and just email me back, I'd really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments on the bill? Senator Hemmingsen-Jaeger, you have the final word.
Thanks again for your attention. I appreciate the discussion, and we'll look into that, and appreciate the support.
All right, and with that, seeing no further discussion, Senate File 4217 is laid over for possible inclusion. Thank you, Senator Hemmingsen-Jaeger, and with that,
Mr. Chair, before you close out.
Yeah, Senator Klein.
So the meeting's posted for Thursday, but we have no agenda yet. Do you anticipate providing an agenda for Thursday's hearing sometime in the near future?
We will, and I think it is posted on the website. Right,
I got notes that the meeting was posted. The agenda hasn't been posted. We'd appreciate it. I think the rule is 72 hours, so public can participate and everybody proper notice, and we can analyze the bills before we get here on next Thursday. So we appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.